In 1973, Captain Scott came to my house to propose. It should have been a tremendous blessing, but I willingly gave the chance to my stepsister, Hannah. People said I was aloof. If Captain Scott hadn't been gravely injured, with my family's class background, he would never have considered marrying into our household. But only I knew I was dodging a disaster. In my previous life, after I married Captain Scott, my health worsened day by day for no reason until I suddenly became paralyzed. Somehow, he transferred all of his pain and injuries onto me. In the end, he fell from the 10th floor trying to save Hannah. His brains spilled out, and he still didn't die, while I was at home when my skull inexplicably burst and I died. After my death, he recovered like a normal man and married Hannah. My quiet death was brushed off with a light, dismissive line about how I was simply ill-fated. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day Captain Scott came to propose. Why should he be marrying anyone but me when the engagement letter didn't even say who the bride was? How did they all decide the one he meant to marry wasn't me? In my previous life, when we heard he was coming to propose, Hannah cried and screamed just like this, shouting that my family were capitalists, and that if my father hadn't married her mother, I would have been sent to the countryside for re-education long ago. When I said I wouldn't marry, my whole family froze, then looked at me with ridicule. I thought Hannah might have a point. I'd never had any contact with Captain Scott, whereas she had attended a few nights of classes at his military unit. Maybe he really intended to marry her. Given my family background back then, being chosen by a disabled man like Captain Scott was already a miracle. But after I married him, it was as if I were cursed. My body weakened by the day. My legs lost strength while he stood taller and stronger. Only then did I realize his injuries were being transferred to me bit by bit. When I tried to confront him, he shot back. The one who saved me back then was your sister, Hannah. You sure have some nerve. Snatching your sister's place just to be a military officer's wife. Do you even know she's threatening to kill herself over this? I couldn't make sense of what was happening and couldn't get a word of defense out. He locked me in a room and cut off my water and food. That very day, Captain Scott fell from the 10th floor trying to save Hannah. His brains spilled out and he still didn't die, while I dropped dead in that room. The cause was listed as a sudden rupture of the brain. Since I've been given another life, I will never marry Captain Scott. But unexpectedly, in this life, he came to our door of his own accord and immediately said he wanted to marry Hannah. Her face flushed and he looked excited. The two of them traded tender glances. Just then my dad thundered his objection. Absolutely not. How can the younger sister marry before the elder? I thought Dad was standing up for me, but his next sentence chilled me to the bone. Captain Scott, our Sherry is quick and diligent with her hands. She's not getting any younger, and she hasn't found a job. Why not let her work as your housemaid? She can take care of Hannah and your family. Once you're used to her, she'll be very handy. I was nothing but a burden to him. When my natal family collapsed in my last life, he rushed to marry a new wife. I didn't even get a mouthful of playing food back then. How could he possibly be considering my interests now? Dad, I'm not going, I said. Sherry, with your class status, no work unit will take you. If you go take care of Captain Scott, at least you'll have a job and be able to stay in the city. Or do you actually want to be sent to the countryside? He shot back. I sneered. What's shameful about going to the countryside? I've already applied. I'm leaving next month. Everyone present was stunned. Half a year ago, I'd been the pampered daughter of a capitalist family who had just come back from overseas. At home, I'd never even held a broom, let alone gone to the countryside. When I said my destination was the far northwest, 1,000 miles away, they were even more shocked. I had already made up my mind. Hannah, I wish you and Captain Scott happiness, I said. Her eyes flickered with emotion, and Scott finally spoke. It's a good thing you have the heart to contribute to the country. If you ever need anything, just tell me directly, Sherry. I misunderstood you before. From now on, you're my real sister. She took off the red string bracelet from her wrist and tied it onto mine, drawing praise from both my father and stepmother for how deep our sisterly bond seemed. My father and stepmother eagerly urged Captain Scott to stay for dinner. It was as if they couldn't wait to settle the matter today. Hannah, her face flushed, poured tea for Captain Scott. His hands weren't steady, and the scalding tea splashed over his hand. The skin turned red and swollen instantly. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Hannah hurried to apologize, but Scott just smiled, his right hand seemingly without any sense of pain. I stared at the two of them intently. This time around, I was determined to see clearly how exactly was his pain being transferred. But just then, my own right hand suddenly felt as if it had been plunged into boiling oil. The pain made me cry out on the spot. The sudden burning sensation brought tears to my eyes, and my body swayed involuntarily, falling just enough for Scott to catch me. What was going on? Why was I the one feeling the pain? I quickly pulled myself away from his support. "Sherry," I spilled it on Scott. "What are you screaming for?" Hannah snapped. "Scott already said he's going to marry me, and here you are faking pain and pretending to be crazy just to throw yourself at him. Shameless." I shook my hand rapidly, hoping the cool air would drive away the burning heat. "Don't argue," my stepmother cut in. "You must have seen it just now. Carter must have got a 100-degree boil from that water." My father chimed in. Yes, your sister surely didn't mean it. She just happened to be sitting in that spot, and Scott's reaction was instinctive. It was unintentional. They were smoothing things over. The last thing they wanted was for the marriage to fall through. Scott had lost all interest in eating. With a strange look in his eyes, he exchanged a few words with my father, and then left. "Was that fun for you?" My father turned to me. "Who's going to believe you if you talk like that? If you truly regret it, tell me. I can find you a reliable, wealthy family. They might not be as good as Captain Scott, but you wouldn't have to worry about food or clothes." Looking at my scumbag father speaking with such certainty, I could only smile bitterly. In my last life, his eagerness to marry me off was nothing more than an employee to seize my dowry. After my mother died, she had left a considerable inheritance hidden in the house. Once I married, he turned the place upside down looking for it. But this time, I would never let him succeed. The next morning, I went straight to the youth office, with Hannah tailing me all the way. She only turned back after seeing me walk through their doors. When the staff there saw me, they introduced me to another person, Zachary Evans, a former classmate from my time overseas. After I returned home, it was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. Zachary looked over my file and asked again, "Sherry, this is a special time, and you're a special skills candidate. Are you really sure about joining us? You'll have to hide your identity, and you may never be able to come back." Without hesitation, I nodded. In my last life, because I had studied abroad, an organization had approached me about joining the Northwest Project. But back then, I'd been swayed by Scott and foolishly chosen marriage instead. This time, I would absolutely stay far away from them. "All right," Zachary said, "from today, you're classified as special talent. All information before departure will be kept secret. If there's any issue, come directly to me." Just as I bent over to sign my name, a sharp pain suddenly started in my lower limbs. The agony made me fall right out of my chair. The sensation was all too familiar, exactly like what I'd felt after marrying into the Scott family in my last life. My head spun wildly, and I fainted on the spot. When I woke again, I was already lying in a hospital bed. Beside me was Zachary, his expression tense. "Sherry, we understand your strong desire to join. But if you have a hidden illness, the organization will reject your application." I hesitated for a moment, then decided to tell Zachary everything that had happened in my previous life. When I finished, his expression hadn't changed the entire time. "Zachary, you don't believe me?" I asked. "Well, it makes sense. Something like this, you'd think it was a joke." "I believe you," Zachary said suddenly. My heart warmed. In truth, whether he believed me or not wasn't the point. Just hearing those two words was already a huge encouragement. "You said he can affect you," he continued. "Then can you affect him?" A shiver ran through me. Why hadn't I thought of that before? Ever since Scott had decided to marry Hannah, he had practically become a regular guest at our house. That night, as expected, he was once again seated at our dining table. I stared hard at his face, because I had just had a wisdom tooth removed at the hospital, and now that the anesthesia had worn off, the pain in the right side of my face was nearly unbearable. I wondered if he would feel it too, but he looked completely calm, even chatting cheerfully with my father. What was going on? Could it be that this pain couldn't transfer? While I was still puzzling over it, Hannah actually had someone carry away the Hewingly wood chest my mother had left behind from my room. "That's my mother's." I snapped. "What right do you have to take it?" "Dad," Hannah said, clinging to him sweetly, "if my sister marries into the military compound empty-handed, people will laugh at her. Just let me take it for her, so she has some face. You're going to the countryside anyway, and you can't bring it with you. We're all family. What's the harm?" Since when? I shot back. Am I family with her? She's my younger sister by marriage. No blood relation at all. What right does she have to touch my mother's belongings? And to be blunt, this house was given to me by my mother. The rest of you are just living here temporarily. My father wanted to argue, but my words, no blood relation, stuck in his throat. Hannah looked even more like him than I did, and she was only half a year younger than me. Considering he remarried just 3 months after my mother's death, it was hard not to suspect her true parentage. In the middle of our argument, the chest accidentally fell onto Scott's leg. His expression remained calm, but my knee buckled from the sudden pain. Just then, Hannah panicked and shoved me down the stairs. The impact nearly crushed my insides, but I gritted my teeth and looked towards Scott for a reaction. Sitting in his wheelchair, he just watched me quietly. Damn, it really was one way. Downstairs, the sound of laughter and cheerful voices filled the air. Tonight's dinner was practically a celebration for Hannah's marriage. While I lay in my bedroom, my sense of powerlessness outweighing even the pain in my body. As I was wondering how to break this situation, my stomach suddenly churned violently and I vomited. Bile mixed with streaks of blood. Sweat broke out all over me. I hadn't eaten a thing. Why was I throwing up? Just then the laughter downstairs grew louder. Captain Scott sure can hold his liquor. 3 pounds already. And he just had a pound of yellow wine earlier. Incredible, Captain Scott. It's nothing, Scott said. As long as the drinks keep coming, I'll keep drinking. No, if he kept drinking, I was going to die. Trembling and weak, I rushed downstairs and practically shouted, Scott, what exactly have you done to me? Why is it that when you drink, I vomit blood? Everyone turned to look at me. Scott wore an innocent expression. What does my drinking have to do with you throwing up? Hannah stepped in between us. Sherry, can't you just let me be happy? I only took one old chest from you, and you have to discuss me like this. You were the one who refused to marry him in the first place. Why are you trying to back out now? I'll tell you, it's useless. Scott has already submitted the marriage application. You've missed your chance. Sherry, stop making trouble. My father said coldly, if you're not feeling well, go to the hospital. Don't you dare slander Captain Scott. Without even bothering to hear me out, he sided with them and drove me away. Don't ruin their mood. Scott's eyes met mine, filled with open provocation, and he lifted his glass, downing another shot of white liquor. The moment it hit his throat, I felt my stomach burn like fire. The pain twisted my face, and from the mocking look he gave me, I knew he was doing it on purpose. Summoning the last of my strength, I shoved the dining table over. Sherry, what are you doing? My father barked. I had no chance to answer before another sharp pain tore through my stomach. This time, I vomited blood all over the floor. I couldn't stop. The dining room was soon splattered in every direction. Everyone was stunned into silence. When I came to, it was already late at night. I was lying in my own bed. My father and stepmother, afraid I'd bring bad luck to the wedding, had simply thrown me back into my room, even though I'd coughed up blood. From the next room came a sound. Scott's voice. She's starting to notice, he said. I need to speed things up. I have to finish the transfer before I leave. Transfer? How exactly was he doing it? As I was trying to piece it together, another voice chilled me to the bone. Don't worry, even if she notices, it's useless. It's only a matter of time. Right now, he still thinks you're the one transferring the illness to her. My whole body jolted, pressing my ear tightly to the wall. I listened as they laughed and talked, and finally understood. Scott wasn't the one who could transfer pain. It was Hannah. Even if he went to the ends of the earth, the transfer was inevitable. The only difference would be how fast it happened. From their conversation, I caught the key detail. Distance weakened the effect. Leave. I had to leave immediately. Dragging my aching body, I began packing in the middle of the night. When I opened the Hungly chest, I found a photo at the bottom. A picture of my mother holding me. Her smile so much like mine, it was uncanny. I stared at it, dazed. Cher, you're awake. Dealing better. Hannah's voice came from outside the door. I didn't move. The door not rattled. Is she still asleep? She won't run, right? She probably didn't hear anything. Forget it. I won't go to your place for a few days. I'll keep an eye on her until the transfer is done. I heard every word clearly. Staring at the photo in my hand, I finally understood how they were doing it. So that's how you transfer it. A few days later, Hannah and Scott's marriage had been approved. Sister, the other day it was rude of me. This new chest is something I bought just for you. And here are 2 jade pendants, One for you, one for Captain Scott, as my wedding gift to you both. Hannah looked genuinely surprised. My father only praised me for being generous, but then glanced at me and noticed I was leaning on a crutch. Sherry, what happened to you? I waved him off. It's nothing. My right leg just suddenly went weak these past few days. It'll probably be fine in a few more. Hannah and my father exchanged a glance before she suddenly spoke up. Oh dear, that's inconvenient. Scott's been feeling much better lately and doesn't need his wheelchair anymore. Why not give it to my sister? Before I could refuse, they pushed me down into the wheelchair, the whole family praising how perfect it was. I'd barely sat down when a young soldier barged into the house, flustered. I'm here to take Captain Scott's wheelchair. Hannah's expression soured, and she put on the airs of a military wife. How dare you? My husband can walk just fine now. Why are you here to take his things? Are you cursing him? The soldier broke into a cold sweat. Captain Scott suddenly couldn't stand during the meeting. What? Scott had been scheduled to give a speech about his personal achievements. He'd specifically left the wheelchair behind today, wanting to show his perseverance and unyielding spirit. But less than 10 minutes into the event, he had collapsed onto the floor like a pile of mud and never stood up again. Hannah urged me to get out of the wheelchair, then hurriedly pushed it herself to go find Scott. I followed my father and stepmother to the hospital to visit this so-called new brother-in-law. When we arrived, the doctor was in the middle of delivering a critical condition notice. The patient is in serious danger. If we don't operate immediately, he'll be permanently disabled. But right now, our hospital is out of anesthesia. Whether we do the surgery is up to you. When Hannah saw me, it was as if she had spotted a lifeline. Do it without anesthesia, just operate right away. Sure enough, distance affected the transfer of pain. With me there as the painkiller, he finally dared to give the order. But the next second, a piercing scream came from the operating room. Not good. The patient has passed out from the pain. Hannah stared at me in disbelief. I sat there calmly reading a book. Sherry, what did you do? Why are you fined? She demanded loudly, drawing curious glances from the others. This was the military hospital. Naturally, everyone there knew Scott. You're the strange one, Hannah, I said evenly. You told them to operate on your husband without anesthesia, and now he's in danger. What are you asking me for? I'm not the doctor. Every word I spoke was reasonable, and Hannah could only stammer, nearly blurting out the truth. Scott's surgery was like a brush with death, but he survived. The patient's life is no longer in danger, but you family members need to ensure proper recovery. Early on, he'll be incontinent and will need someone to care for him. Who's going to learn basic nursing from me? Let Sherry do it. She's the older sister. It's only right, Hannah said without hesitation. Just like in my last life, all the dirty, exhausting work was shoved onto me. Should an older sister be the one to clean up after her brother-in-law? I asked pointedly. The doctor, hearing that, couldn't help but interject. If the patient's wife is here, we recommend she be the one to provide care. But my father spoke up at once. Sherry, you should go listen to. Don't let your sister get too tired. I froze. In my last life, I cared for Scott because we were husband and wife. What exactly did this count as now? Then my father added, this is tied to you anyway. I stood there for a moment, stunned. My earlier suspicions settled into certainty. My father knew the truth, and my stepmother couldn't be uninvolved. From beginning to end, I had been an outsider in this family. Even my marriage in my last life, even my death, might have been part of their plan all along. Sherry, here you are. I've been looking for you. Zachary's voice came from behind me. He was holding a file folder. Get ready. You're leaving for the Northwest in 3 days. My father was startled. What? That soon? Isn't the time for countryside assignments fixed every year? Why is hers so rushed? He still wanted to ask more, but I feigned weakness. My father, seeing I didn't look well, put on a show of concern. Do you want a rest in the ward? No, Dad. I'll just go home. I can use the time to pack my things. Acting frail, I let Zachary support me out of the room. But the moment we stepped outside, I slipped away and circled back. Zachary was caught off guard by my little trick. Sure enough, the moment I left, my father hurried to share the good news with Hannah. Dad, my sister had another attack. But Scott still hasn't woken up. Didn't you say that after the pain transfer, the person would be like new? Then why hasn't Scott woken yet? Hannah asked. Maybe after so many years, I'm misremembering some details. In any case, you and Scott only have a few days left. Make the most of them. Zachary, listening from the doorway, was shaken. Sherry, what on earth is going on? Before she died, my mother had hidden all the secrets in a false compartment of the Huanguli chest. I took out letter after letter. Zachary leafed through them, his calm expression shifting to shock until his mouth could no longer close. "This is real?" he asked. "Whether it's real or not," I said quietly, "my mother was killed because of this. 30 years ago, my father, deeply in debt, had married into my mother's family and fathered me. But soon after, he fell gravely ill, and that was when he began to despise her. The wealth and glory my mother's family once had now become a burden to him. My father's birth mother had once taught him a secret technique, one that could transfer his own pain and illness to those around him, forcing others to bear his suffering. The medium for the transfer was an object he wore often. I pointed to the red string in my mother's photo, then raised my wrist. This is the medium they used for the transfer. The one I'm wearing was put on me by Hannah, but it's actually something that belonged to Scott. Then why are you still wearing it?" Zachary reached out, ready to pull it off. "Don't panic, it's a fake made by the Hannah family," I said. "A fake? Then where's the real one?" Scott had been awake for less than half a minute when Hannah suddenly collapsed to the floor, writhing in agony. She couldn't even tell whether the pain was in her foot or her stomach. "What's wrong with you?" my father asked. "I don't know, Dad, it hurts so much. Could it be your appendicitis acting up again?" Hannah nodded one moment, shook her head the next. My father ran around in a panic, searching for medical staff and painkillers. But painkillers were a scarce resource, strictly rationed for the military and hardly available to ordinary patients. Hannah underwent every test possible, but nothing conclusive came up. It was either appendicitis or something else. "There's nothing seriously wrong with your body," the doctor said impatiently, clearly fed up with the whole family. Hannah, realizing something, quietly offered her own theory, but my father immediately shot it down. "This is appendicitis. I saw your sister doubled over in pain and needing to be helped away. Stop imagining things, and besides, she's still wearing the red string on her wrist. If she felt something was wrong, she'd have taken it off by now." The family that should have returned home that day ended up staying with Hannah in the hospital for 2 more days. During those 2 days, I located all of my mother's hidden inheritance, not only her old secrets, but also the exact places she had hidden her wealth. She had never trusted my father, but given the special circumstances of that era, some things could only be buried. In the backyard, Zachary and I dug up 2 large chests, both packed full of antique jewelry. "You're really going to donate this to the state?" Zachary, having never seen so many treasures in one place, was stunned. "Of course, you already pay me a generous salary. What do I need these for? I can't spend them or move them, and leaving them here would only let them fall into the wrong hands." Zachary's eyes narrowed. "Do you have a plan for this house?" "I do." The night before my departure, the Hannah family finally returned. I had intended to leave that night, but my father insisted on holding a farewell dinner. My eldest daughter is going to support the Northwest. My second daughter is getting married. Soon it will be just the 2 of us left in this house. An old couple living alone, we can't just make do with a simple meal. Hannah raised her glass. "Dad, what are you talking about? If you ever miss me and Scott, we can come visit anytime." Though Hannah was still weak from her hospital stay, she joined in the toast. My stepmother and Scott also turned their eyes to me, clearly waiting for me to raise my glass. I only tapped it lightly, barely wetting my lips before setting it down. "Dad, there's something I need to make clear. You probably won't be able to keep living in this house." "What do you mean by that?" "This property is part of my mother's family estate. After I leave, I've rented it out as a guest house. The new tenants will be moving in first thing tomorrow morning to prepare the place. You made such a big decision without even discussing it with me. I'm your father. This house..." I curled my lips into a half-smile. Why would I need to consult someone named Hannah about a property belonging to my mother's family? "Sherry, you're my daughter. Don't think going to the countryside is some glorious thing. When you get bullied, won't you have to come home and rely on me to stand up for you?" "Stand up for me?" I laughed coldly. "When have you ever done that? Was it when you tried to make me a maid, or when you made me nurse my brother-in-law?" My gaze swept over the rest of them. "As for whether I'll come back, don't worry. Even if I die out there, my bones will rot on the Gobi Desert. I would never set foot in that house again. You unfilial daughter, ungrateful wretch." My father's whole body trembled with rage. Just then, an indescribably foul stench suddenly spread across the dinner table. Yellow, unknown liquid dripped from the hem of Scott's pants. He had lost control of his bladder. The moment Hannah noticed, she rushed to wheel him away. As soon as Scott left, my father fixed his eyes on me, as if waiting for some sort of reaction from my body. I found it ridiculous and couldn't help but laugh. "Dad, are you waiting for me?" His pupils contracted sharply. "Waiting for you to writhe on the floor in pain like Hannah, or to humiliate yourself in public like Captain Scott." "Sherry, what nonsense are you spouting?" He slammed the table hard to cover his unease, rattling the bowls and plates until they nearly jumped off the surface. But an even more embarrassing thing happened. Something began to drip from between his legs. Beside him, my stepmother's expression twisted. She clamped her legs together tightly as an even stronger stench filled the dining room. "Dad, Mom," Hannah's shrill scream came from the doorway. She had run back in, just in time to see my father and stepmother in their shameful state. You too, a hit reeks, I can't live like this." Hannah cried, then spun on me, pointing a shaking finger. "Dad, I told you, she already figured it out. What did you do to us?" "Why is this happening?" my father demanded. I stretched lazily. "Oh, nothing much. I just let you all share a taste of Captain Scott's suffering. After all, he's your son-in-law. Me, as someone from the Carter family, shouldn't be contaminated by your family's conditions." "That's impossible. You're still wearing the red string. How could it have transferred to us?" "Oh, you mean this." I slowly untied the cord and tossed it straight into the fireplace. A wisp of green smoke rose as the fake red string crumbled instantly into ash. The three of them froze. I thought maybe they had finally realized their mistake and would bow their heads in apology. Instead, my father said, "Daughter, put the real one back on and Dad will spare your life." I laughed. "And what makes you think you have the right to negotiate with me?" His eyes changed in an instant. Grabbing a dinner knife, he lunged at me. I dodged, knocking over a wine glass in the process. "Originally, this was meant to be your send-off drink, to use your life to honor Scott," he snarled. "Didn't expect your wings to grow strong enough to blind me first. Fine, you've got guts. Either you helped me restore it, or you're not leaving this house alive today." He slashed at me again. My stepmother and Hannah closed in surrounding me. They were insane. They actually meant to kill me right then and there. But before they could move further, all three suddenly buckled, dropping to their knees without warning. From outside came Scott's agonized scream, and then the three of them let out muffled groans of pain. I seized the chance, bolting into the bedroom and locking the door behind me. "Say it now," my father roared outside, pounding the door with his fists. My stepmother and Hannah banged on it as well. "Sherry, if I can't live well, neither can you," Hannah shouted. "Fine," my father yelled, "then we'll take good care of Scott. The three of us won't die, but you're going to die today. If you don't come out, we'll burn you alive. Once you're dead and burned to ash, let's see who will recognize that worthless lease of yours. That whore of a mother of yours must have hidden more gold. Once you're gone, I'll have all the time in the world to find it, even if I have to dig 3 feet under. Yes, burn her. Once she's dead, maybe this cursed effect will stop. Sherry, I'll ask you one last time. Will you tell us or not?" My father's voice was hoarse with fury. He didn't know that by then, I had already climbed out the window with Zachary, helping me escape. We had barely gotten far when the old house erupted in roaring flames. "Dad, my sister's body, it's gone." Hannah's panicked cry pierced the night. "Maybe it was burned to ashes. Doesn't matter. Start looking for anything valuable." "Dad, are you sure there's something left? I saw that wretched woman bury something underground 20 years ago." "Dig harder." The house had been burned to a hollow shell, but my father led several people to dig 3 feet into the ground, determined to find something. Zachary arrived with a pair of police officers. My father had already prepared his story. He immediately dropped to his knees, crying. "Yesterday, my eldest daughter went mad for some reason and set fire to the house." "That's right," Hannah chimed in. "My sister was jealous that I was marrying Captain Scott and tried to kill me, but ended up setting herself on fire and burning down the house instead." Scott, sitting nearby in his wheelchair, nodded along without enthusiasm. Zachary gave a thin smile and turned to the police. "Yesterday, I came looking for Sherry, and I saw them inside the house pouring gasoline and setting it on fire." My father's eye is widened. "How dare you slander me?" He reached out to strike him. Zachary didn't even flinch. "Fenton, your job is vehicle maintenance. Getting gasoline is easy for you. I heard yesterday that you obtained 3 full barrels. You don't own a car. What did you need it for? My father froze. Lowering his voice, he said to Zachary, Secretary Zhang, there's something in that house. Can we talk privately? Zachary's smile vanished. Talk privately. I have a 20-year lease for that house. You burned it down, so I should be asking how you plan to compensate me. My father never expected that the person I'd rented the house to was Zachary himself. At that moment, Scott tried to use his position as a captain to speak up for his father-in-law, but Zachary coldly produced a letter. Scott opened it and his face went blank. Curious, Hannah picked it up and read aloud. Assessment, Comrade Scott Carter, 4th degree or higher disability. Recommendation, retirement, and transfer to civilian work. Scott's composure collapsed instantly. My house is gone. With witnesses and evidence, Zachary saw to it that, aside from Scott, the other 3, my father, Hannah, and my stepmother were all sent to prison. But Hannah and her mother shoved all the blame onto my father, even claiming my death was his doing, saying he had killed me for my inheritance. Then Hannah revealed the biggest secret. I loved Scott. My father said he had a way to make us be together. He tampered with Scott's car so he'd get injured. Later, my father taught me how to transfer pain. It was all him. Hearing that his disability had been caused by these 2 women from the Hannah family, Scott's hatred reached its peak. All 3 were imprisoned. My father received a 40-year sentence. He was already 55. 40 years might as well have been a death sentence. And during those years, he would continue to bear Scott's transferred pain. It would have been kinder if he had just died. 2 years later, Hannah and my stepmother were released. Hannah believed Scott had stayed faithful during her prison term, thinking it was true love. But on her first day back, he beat her. So it was you all along. I thought you saved me in that car accident. But you were trying to kill me. I'm not divorcing you. I'll cling to you for the rest of my life. And this transfer hasn't stopped, has it? Every time I hurt myself from now on, the 3 of you can suffer together. Yes, Scott's pain transfer was still linked to all 3 of them. He would go out of his way to crash a car, twist an ankle, anything, because the pain would all end up on them. As for me, they all thought I was dead. Sherry Carter was indeed gone. I had changed my name to Sherry Newman and spent the next 20 years working at a secret base in the Northwest. My mother's inheritance had become a laboratory on the Gobi Desert. I poured my sweat and dedication into it, silently contributing to my country. I never married, never had children. My scientific projects became my children, filling my life with purpose. In them, I found my own worth. At 50, after years of intense work, the organization granted me early retirement, along with a Medal of Honor. When I returned to my long-lost hometown, Zachary welcomed me and took me back to the site of the old house. In its place stood a brand new modern building. Back then, you rented it to us for 20 years. The lease has long since expired. It's time to return it to you. I accepted the keys, my heart overwhelmed with emotion. My retirement was peaceful and calm. I worked part-time as an honorary professor, occasionally mentoring students, but most of my time was spent living quietly in that small building. Living a quiet life under a new name, I enjoyed my peaceful days. One afternoon, after attending a meeting, Zachary drove me home. Suddenly, a woman darted into the road, nearly colliding with our car. Security guards rushed in to drag her away. Sorry, Secretary Zhang, one of them said, that's my wife, she came to bring me lunch. The moment he mentioned her, he slapped her heart across the face. Through the car window, I finally saw clearly, it was Hannah. She looked more than 10 years older than she should have, limping with bruises on her face, and the security guard was Scott. He seemed energetic enough, though the youthful pride in his demeanor was long gone. Are you blind? Didn't you see this was the leader's car? What if you damaged it? He barked at her. Hannah trembled with fear and immediately dropped to her knees. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, she said, bowing her head repeatedly against the ground. If you make me lose my job, you and your unlucky mother can get out of my house. Zachary, unable to watch any longer, waved it off and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Scott kick Hannah again, his coarse voice cutting through the air. Curious how the Hannah family is doing now. Zachary asked. I shook my head. My ties with the Hannah family ended in that fire. I freed myself from the past and broke those chains. The rest of my life belongs to my rebirth, and it feels good to have earned it myself.